The studio lights glowed softly against the wooden walls of Joe Rogan's famous podcast set, a place that had become synonymous with free speech, controversy, and conversations that could shift the cultural tide. The table was stocked with cigars, glasses of whiskey, and a couple of mugs of coffee. The cameras were rolling, and millions were already waiting live as the most anticipated guest of the month sat across from Rogan, Elon Musk. Joe leaned back in his chair, eyes studying Musk with the mixture of curiosity and wariness he often carried when he knew his guest might drop something explosive. "Elon," Joe began, swirling the amber liquid in his glass, "I gotta ask. People out there say the political climate has gotten insane. You've been pretty vocal on Twitter, or X, whatever we're calling it now, about how the left has shifted. But why do you think the Democrats, in particular, are acting, well?" Rogan smirked. "Crazier." The billionaire smiled faintly, that oddly robotic pause before he spoke that gave the sense he was downloading his words from a satellite in orbit. He glanced at the camera, then at Rogan, and finally said in a tone that carried the weight of unshakable certainty. "Because insanity is the last refuge of people who are losing control." Joe blinked, chuckled nervously, and leaned forward. "Okay, that's heavy. But what do you mean exactly? Losing control of what?" Musk leaned back, clasping his hands, his voice steady but charged with intensity. "They're losing control of the narrative. For decades, Democrats could dictate the cultural script through legacy media, through universities, through Hollywood. People swallowed it because they didn't have an alternative. But the internet shattered that monopoly. Suddenly, information isn't filtered through CNN or the New York Times, it's raw, chaotic, and uncontrolled. And when people have access to unfiltered truth, they start questioning authority." Joe raised an eyebrow, his face shifting into that classic Rogan mix of skepticism and astonishment. "So you're saying the crazier rhetoric, the extreme policies, the cancel culture, it's all just desperation?" "Exactly," Musk replied, his eyes glinting. "They're like a cornered animal. When they can't control you, they try to scare you. When fear doesn't work, they scream louder. And when screaming fails, they try to rewrite reality itself." Joe rubbed his chin, clearly rattled but fascinated. The air in the studio felt denser, as if the walls themselves were absorbing Musk's words. "Give me an example," Rogan pressed. Musk chuckled dryly. "Okay. Take energy. Democrats say they want to save the planet, right? But then they kill nuclear energy, the cleanest, safest, most scalable option, because it doesn't fit their narrative of total control through renewables they can subsidize. Or look at free speech. They say they're the defenders of democracy, but they want to control what you can say, what you can read, what you can question. They censor under the guise of safety. It's Orwellian." Joe shook his head slowly, half laughing. "Man, you're saying the party of freedom became the party of censorship." Musk didn't miss a beat. "Not became. Always was. They just disguised it better before. Now, people are seeing through it." The silence that followed was broken only by the faint hum of the air conditioning. Joe looked almost stunned, staring at Musk as if the billionaire had just peeled back the curtain on the political machine in real time. His eyes widened, his mouth slightly open. The internet would later replay that exact moment, his face frozen between disbelief and realization, millions of times in viral clips. But Musk wasn't finished. He leaned closer, lowering his voice as though he were revealing state secrets. "You want to know why they're getting crazier, Joe? Because they're terrified of losing the youth. Gen Z doesn't watch cable news. They don't read the Washington Post. They watch podcasts, TikToks, YouTubers. And if the Democrats can't lock down the next generation with fear and indoctrination, they lose everything. So what do? They double down on insanity. They push extremes so far that anyone who questions it looks like the enemy." Joe exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "That's wild, man. But doesn't that backfire? People are waking up, like you said." Musk nodded. "It does backfire. That's why you see so many walkaways, lifelong liberals suddenly saying, 'I didn't leave the party left me.' The Democrats' overreach is creating more enemies than allies. They've mistaken control for influence. But control always breeds rebellion." Joe's face twisted into that familiar half-smile, half-frown that signaled he was processing something massive. "Dude, you're basically saying the left is self-destructing." Musk grinned faintly, almost smugly. They're imploding. And the more desperate they get, the crazier they'll appear. Joe sat back, silent for a moment, then burst out laughing. Man, you realize people are gonna lose their minds when they hear this, right? They'll say you've gone full conspiracy theorist. Musk tilted his head slightly, as if amused by the thought. It's not a conspiracy if it's observable reality. The two men laughed, but the weight of the exchange lingered. Rogan couldn't hide his astonishment, his eyes darted around, searching for the right words. He finally said, "Dude, I'm watching your face right now, and you don't even flinch. Like, you're just calmly dropping bombs." Musk shrugged. Ideal in reality. People may not like it, but reality doesn't care. At that point, the conversation shifted into territory that made Rogan visibly uncomfortable. Musk began connecting dots, about corporate lobbying, media collusion, the revolving door between government regulators and tech companies. He described it not as a system of governance but as an ecosystem of manipulation, where Democrats had mastered the art of appearing righteous while consolidating power. Why do you think censorship on social media exploded under Democratic leadership? Musk asked. It wasn't about safety. It was about silencing dissent before it gained traction. They don't fear lies. They fear inconvenient truths. Joe blinked rapidly, eyes darting to the camera as though silently warning viewers, this is heavy stuff. His lips parted in disbelief. Man, people are gonna say you sound like you're declaring war on the establishment. Musk smirked. I'm not declaring war. I'm just describing it. As the conversation deepened, Joe's expressions told the story better than his words. His eyebrows shot up when Musk mentioned the ties between political donations and media narratives. His jaw dropped when Musk casually remarked that, many policies aren't designed to solve problems, they're designed to perpetuate problems so politicians have a reason to exist. And when Musk declared, the crazier they act, the closer they are to collapse, Joe simply stared at him, mouth agape, unable to form a response. The internet would explode with memes of Joe's stunned face, captioned with phrases like, when Elon drops the truth bomb, and, that moment you realize the system is rigged. Clips circulated with millions of views within hours. But in that studio, the mood was heavier. Rogan finally leaned forward, lowering his voice as though they weren't being streamed to millions. So what happens next, man? If they're imploding, what does that mean for the country? Musk paused, his expression suddenly more serious, even somber. Chaos. Transition is always messy. But chaos is also an opportunity for reinvention. We can choose a freer future, one built on transparency and open dialogue. Or we can descend into authoritarianism, where craziness becomes the norm. That choice is coming sooner than people think. Joe stared at him, face pale under the lights, his lips pressed tight. For once, the man who had a question for everyone seemed at a loss. His silence spoke louder than words. And then Musk, as if sensing the heaviness, leaned back, cracked a small grin, and added lightly, but hey, maybe we'll all just upload our consciousness to AI and avoid politics altogether. Joe laughed, a nervous, almost relieved laugh, shaking his head. Dude, you're something else. But his face, captured, replayed, and dissected across social media, told the truth. Shock, disbelief, maybe even a little fear. Elon Musk had just exposed why Democrats were getting crazier, and Joe Rogan's face told the world exactly how powerful those words really were. For days, the internet buzzed. Clips trended. Comment sections overflowed. Some called Musk a prophet. Others called him dangerous. But one thing was undeniable. The look on Joe Rogan's face, the moment Musk pulled back the curtain, had become an image of awakening. And no amount of narrative control could erase it.